Hello, everybody. Today's video is about geopolitical and geoeconomic diversification. It's no secret that recently the world has been thrown into a large international overseas conflict with the US and all. And really, the point around that I want to make is the fact that the geopolitical landscape around the world is constantly evolving. Country that you grew up in 20 years ago, today's country might not necessarily be the same country that it was before. Um, Laws evolved, conflicts evolved, new powers come to take power and exert their influence on things. So things are constantly changing. And so as a digital citizen, as someone who potentially works remotely or has an online business or something like that, you have the power to geopolitically and geoeconomically diversify yourself and to hedge your exposure to potentially mal effects of different jurisdictions around the world. And, I don't want to get political with this video. I don't want to attack one side or another. But no, I will just say that it kind of makes me uncomfortable to see my country engaging in a conflict that seems like I have real no interest in being a part of it. So it just goes to show that the government that you live under isn't necessarily um, always aligned with your interests. And throughout history, throughout time, uh, you know, governing powers have abused their citizens. Um, Again, the landscape in your country can potentially evolve over time. Restriction can add up. There can be a loss of rights. Conflicts can be entered. Um, and there can be competition from other nations and all those sorts of things, recessions, depressions. And so if you grow up in one country and you live there your whole life and you just stay there the whole time, that's fine, and I don't want to knock country loyalty. Everybody should have loyalty, but also at the same time, by doing so, um, you are putting all your eggs in one basket, right? If that basket goes corrupt, if a dictator takes control of that country, if the currency gets devalued out the wazoo and inflation spikes rapidly, like it's happened in so many other countries like Argentina, Zimbabwe, and so forth, then your quality of life can deteriorate rapidly if some of those unforeseen uh, forces take hold. And so by living digitally, you can bounce around to other jurisdictions, other states, other countries, other continents. You get the idea. But you say you get into some sort of terrible recession or some terrible war occurs, you do have the possibility of continuing your livelihood and your career and so forth in another place without having to be there, without having to be subject to the inflation or the recession or the depression or the war. And also, there's even greater lengths that you can go to hedge yourself. Obviously, you have the passport and the citizenship of the country that you were born in, but there's no real limit to the amount of passports one person can hold. You can be a citizen of multiple nations if you want to be. And that's not necessarily an easy process. You can't necessarily just apply and be a new citizen of another country right away, but there are some countries where that's easier done than others. And so, in certain places, within 5 years, 3 years, or something like that, you could potentially have that second passport. There are even some birthright citizenships like they have in Italy and Ireland. So the point is, you can be a multi-global citizen. So if recession hits in one country, you can jump to the other. If the healthcare system deteriorates in one country, then you can pursue your medical needs in that other country. And obviously, this is not a perfect system. It's not the easiest thing in the world to set up, but you can begin now. If you are a remote worker or own an online business or something like that, and you can hedge your geopolitical and or geoeconomic exposure so that if this nest of this country, in my case, the United States of America, if this nest starts to become rotten, and I don't believe it has, but it could. I would never ever rule out the possibility of any nation deteriorating, right? And so, if this basket does happen to deteriorate and rot away and become a less fruitful place to live, um, I personally am taking measures to uh, diversify myself so that in future, myself and potentially my family uh, can escape uh, maladies, can escape dangerous situations or economic hardships and things like that. So I just wanted to plant that seed that, things are constantly changing throughout time. There's been revolutions, wars, depressions, new economic powers rising and falling, new industries like the internet, like AI, the industrial revolution. Um, Things change. And, if you sit at home year after year saying, well, things have always been fine over time and we've always pushed through, in large part, maybe that is true, but history is always in limbo, and you can never take your circumstances for granted. And I encourage anybody who has the wherewithal to pursue potentially diversifying their global exposure. Thank you. That's all for today.